This is the Football Show now. Millwall manager Gary Rowett claims players taking a knee before matches is causing a rift in football and has called on authorities to come up with a different way of promoting equality. Now, there were boos at the Den last night as Fulham players took a knee. Sky Sports pundit Joby McAnuff says it's not just a Millwall problem, but has criticised Rowett for failing to condemn those who booed. Now, if you listen carefully, boos can be heard despite the pre-match music.
There's so many football clubs that do such good work in their communities around equality and anti-racism. I think there's so many clubs that do that work. I think what we need at the moment is, we need the authorities to help clubs out and find a better way to unify people. In my opinion, look, I can't, I don't want to comment on individuals, people's decision, to do that, but we just need to find a way to unify people. And at the moment, 20 seconds, 30 seconds in a game is just causing such a rift and divide amongst football. And in my opinion, football, it's a great spectacle. We're all privileged to be part of it, but I think what it does is it has the power to help communities and help do some really good work behind the scenes. And it's not just our football club. I think there's a lot of football clubs doing that. So I think we need help. I think we need help to find a more positive way of making some forms of action.
I'm disappointed by Gary Rowett's reaction to it. I'm not blaming him in any way whatsoever. These incidents, unfortunately, will occur. I don't think we can be any clearer in terms of the message behind taking a knee and what it stands for and what it represents. It's the fight against racism and discrimination. It's that simple. When somebody decides to make a racist tweet or shout racist abuse at somebody, that's a decision. These fans at this football club are making a decision to boo the players taking the knee. So for me, there's no other explanation anymore other than they're opposing equality, and that's as simple as it is. Now, for me, yes, you're the manager of a football club. You might say you can't control what a fan does when he comes in, but what you can do as the figurehead is condemn it in the strongest possible terms. So I was racially abused there as a 17-year-old in a FA Youth Cup game, which was 22 years ago. Today we're talking about racism at Millwall Football Club, but it's also in society, and it's hard not to get depressed about it. It's hard not to get down, angry, particularly after the summer with everything that happened with the England players. What should have been a real positive feeling towards the England team ended up being, again, a real sour note.
Well, there are also some audible boos before Burton's game with Sunderland. And it wasn't just in the Championship. Sean Dyche addressed boos at Turf Moor on Saturday, heard ahead of Burnley's game against Brighton.
All we can do is we can only offer the right things that we think are important, along with many other teams and players across the whole of football. But people have lives as well. We can't control people's lives, What we can do is offer opinion, the right opinion we feel, the right kind of messages out there. But we can't control the whole of people's lives. It's very difficult. People are in a stadium, they're all happy to be back, they have their views on all of these things. So, I think the one thing to focus on is there was a lot of applause at that time as well, which was very obvious, I thought, at the taking a knee moment.
OK, we've got to be clear. It's not just Millwall, Danny, isn't it? As we saw with Burton there, Burnley at the weekend. We've seen it, sadly, England in the Euros. But we've also seen applause as well as booing. For you, is there any better way of tackling racism? Do players have to stick with this particular stand to make the point?
I've heard a lot of arguments for maybe changing, taking the knee to something else, but I don't think that's going to make a difference. We've heard a million times that, this is not a political statement. This is about anti-discrimination and anti-racism. You've had a letter, an open letter, from the England manager, what was put on every media platform, probably around the world, that has seen this. Players have come out and said time and time again, this is nothing to do with politics. This is purely about anti-racism. Therefore, my stance on that is, if you don't agree with it, then say nothing. But if you actively make a choice and boo an anti-racist statement, which is what it is, in my view, that makes you racist. I don't see if there's any other way of looking for that. Why would you boo an anti-racist or whatever it is? That going against what it is. So you have to, you're either, you can't be in the middle of this. You're either, racist or you're not. Simple as that. There is no middle ground. And if you're booing anti-racism statements or gestures, then these people have to be singled out and asked why. Sean Dye says you can't control people. Well, we can, because you don't let them into football grounds. Simple as that. There has to be some sort of punishment. There has to be a punishment befitting of what this is. It needs to be stamped out. Nobody wants this in the game. But if the punishments aren't harsh enough and people are allowed to get away with it, then it will continue, sadly.
OK, I hear what you say. Eddie, Gary Rowett, you heard there saying we need to find a way to unify people. He is asking for help from the authorities. So what more can be done?
I think there's too much pressure on football clubs to be able to deal with this situation, because obviously you hear the booing and it's quite in your face when you're at a football club. This is apparent in society every single day, and it's easy just to throw it onto football. There needs to be educational programs throughout society, at the workplace, at schools. You need educational programs, and there needs to be tougher punishments for these people to control them to when they do step out of line, because it's not, as Ben has already said, we don't want this in football. Football is so multicultural all over the world. It's a worldwide game. You can't still, in this time and age, still start booing and having derogatory opinions and shouting them out against someone just because you're losing a game, and you use his colour of his skin against him, to shout abuse. You can't be doing that no more. So therefore, it goes beyond football. We've got to stop asking football authorities to do everything. It's got to be beyond the football authorities. It's got to be the government taking charge of these things, to start establishing things at school, at the very heart of things, when kids are 4 or 5, to start establishing things there. In the workplace, as I already said, that there has to be, not just the company has to do it, it has to be forced by the government, because it's within society. And you're calling it a football problem, it's a society problem. And we all have to deal with it on a day-to-day basis, and we have to address the problems that are happening in society at the very core, at the very root.
I think it's very, very simple. As you walk into a ground, there is a sign on the outside by the turnstiles or wherever it is saying that, taking the knee is an anti-racist statement. Therefore, anybody that boos or goes against it will be sought out and will be punished. Simple as that. How much clearer can you make it? These people have been told time and time and time again by their own players, by their white players, by their black players, by their managers, by the England manager. It's not difficult, so it doesn't matter whether it's taking the knee or doing star jumps or raising your arms in the air. People are still going to boo it no matter what. So, but they need to know that if you do boo an anti-racist gesture, you will be found and you will be punished for it. It shouldn't be that difficult in this day and age. Everybody has a seat. There are lots of social medias out there. You can, if you're not happy with it, you can text the club. There will be numbers that you can say, actually, this person in row 7, seat XYZ, whatever it might be, booed. They can be found on CCTV, they can be found at what seat they're sat in, and all these types of things. It just has to stop. Simple as that.